We are here inside of our fantasy football coverage. Appreciate your patience as we started our new video here for part 2 of today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Fantasy football in focus for the NFL playoffs 2023-24 season, the wild card round. The wild card games are in order of when they are going to kick off here right next to me on your screen. We are here with you on all of our fantastic outlets. You're here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can see us on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. You can listen to the show from anywhere in the world. So we appreciate you hanging out with us where sports truly meets that thing called life. And of course, once the shows go live, you can find us in our archives on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. So make sure you do that today. I appreciate everyone that has. So, with that being said, Fantasy Football in Focus is proudly presented weekly by the Wildcat Sports Pub. Every time we do fantasy football conversations here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, they're proudly presented by the fantastic team at the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. The Wildcat is there for you 7 days a week for all of these NFL wildcard games, as well as college basketball and everything, hockey, the NBA, and so on and so forth. Every single thing that you got going on, be it an anniversary or a trophy ceremony, you have a team get together, you're on a date, you're hanging out with the family, you're hanging out with your buddies, you're hanging out with the girls, whatever it may be, you got a kid's birthday party, it all happens at the Wildcat Sports Pub. They have found a way with the fantastic ownership of Danny Tome to make everything seamlessly work together. They have a wonderful room that you can rent out as well. And there's so much to enjoy at the Wildcat. For all of the different ways you can experience the Wildcat, head to 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Their food is fantastic. So if you're going to stay home, Takeout and Delivery, call 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat Sports Pub. So, with all that being said, fantasy football in focus. We're going to get into fantasy football advice for those of you playing daily fantasy. Shout out and congratulations to everybody that won a championship in their respective fantasy football leagues. A shout out to our Marywood League on Wake Up Call, as well as our 2 Central New York leagues with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and our Wake Up Call Floridian League that is down in the Orlando area. So a big time shout out to every single one of you, and thank you so much for being a part of our fantasy football leagues. I love it every single year. I gave some of you my word last season that we were going to start a national league where people could join and we could do it on the internet. I did not have access to all of the people that were trying to join that league, so I should have done a better job at keeping the list. So if you didn't get a call from me or I didn't connect with you, it's not because I didn't want to, and it's not because I didn't keep my word. It is simply because I didn't keep tabs on the emails as best as I should. So I will do my best to kind of recycle, go through, and reach out to those of you that I can. But if you're watching and listening right now and you're wondering, why didn't we have that National League? We are going to do that National League this upcoming season. And this time around, I'll make sure that I put all of your information in a hard copy. So I will have that as well as digitally. Because if anybody knows me, you know that I am a person who likes the hard copy. There's never going to be anything better than having a pen and a piece of paper, and so I could do definitely a better job with making sure that I do that this time around so that we don't miss out on having that National League. So thank you to everybody that joined, and please know that I would be absolutely privileged to have you join our league, those of you that expressed interest in the National League. So a lot of great stuff coming up with fantasy football. We are always looking to improve and expand and do things in the best way possible. So I would love for you to join us in doing that. We're going to go through the games, and we are going to assess each of these games. I'll tell you who I think is going to win. I've already given that earlier on this week, but I'm more than happy to let you know who I'm predicting to win these games as we cycle through them. And, of course, we will also get to that fantasy football advice for each matchup. So those of you know that the new wild card system that has a 7th team. So there's more wild card or there's a 7th team that was added to the playoffs on both sides, which expands the wild card, which is why we have the number 1 seed that gets to sit out and have a bye through the first round, but the 2 seed has to play. The old system used to have 6 teams in the AFC, 6 teams in the NFC, and there was only, and then 2 could sit out. So you had 3 play 6, 4 play 5, 1 and 2 got to get a first round bye. That is different now. Only the first overall seed in the AFC and the NFC gets a bye through the first week. Everybody else has to play. 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, and 4 plays 5. So with that being said, we are looking at the first games, which are the games that are going to be happening this Saturday, January 13th. Once again, you can come out on Saturday if you're in Central and Upstate New York. You can go support the men's basketball team at Lemoyne because their game is at 2 o'clock, and you will be done before kickoff at 4:30. So you can, if you're going to be watching the NFL games, you might as well come out in Syracuse or in the Central and Upstate New York area to Lemoyne. Come support the men's team playing in their first ever NEC conference game at home. So come and see that game, cheer them on against Merrimack, and then go off to the Wildcat and enjoy these games, and as well as to, you know, if you're going to go back home and order some takeout from the Wildcat or whatever that may be. So make sure that you get out there to Lemoyne this weekend, and after that, that you enjoy those football games. There's 2 football games that are going to be this Saturday, January 13th in the wild card round. Those 2 games that we're going to see are going to start off with Cleveland at Houston and then Miami at Kansas City. Cleveland at Houston is the first one that I'm going to tackle. The Cleveland Browns have had 4 different quarterbacks this season. There's other teams that have done that. The Minnesota Vikings, who are not in the playoffs. The New York Jets, who are not in the playoffs. The Cleveland Browns did something that is very atypical, which is have that many different quarterbacks and not only have a good season and a winning season, but to make it into the postseason. So congratulations to them on tremendous effort that has gotten them to where they are today, which is a fantastic season that they've had so far. Cleveland is actually the team that I give the nod to in this game. I think they're the more dangerous team. My Jacksonville Jaguars would have played up against the Cleveland Browns. Whoever won the AFC South was going to play Cleveland. And I was sitting here thinking, like, of, you know, as a fan, I want Jacksonville to make it. As a broadcaster, you know, the team that has earned the right. I think Houston earned the right more than Jacksonville did, not just by winning the game and Jacksonville lost theirs, but I think Houston Houston's proven throughout the season that they were a better team than Jacksonville. You know, I know that they faced off against each other and they split their series, but in my opinion, Houston was a better team than Jacksonville was this season. And that's coming from a Jaguars fan, but an impartial broadcaster. And as a broadcaster, it is my job to tell you what is there and to talk about things that I can factually back up. And factually, I think Houston just proved that they're better under pressure than the Jaguars. They're more consistent, and they're a team that I think had earned the right to be into the playoffs more than the Jaguars this year. So they are in the playoffs, but they're playing this very difficult matchup against the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns will be on the road. I don't think that means anything in this game. I think Cleveland is a very, very difficult out for anybody that's going to be out there. And they have definitely proven themselves this season to be a team that whoever their quarterback is, they're going to come to play. And like I said, how many teams can say we went through 4 quarterbacks, lost our starter, went through 4 different quarterbacks, and we have not only a viable team, but a double-digit win team and a playoff team that's going into this game that I don't consider them the underdog in this matchup. So Cleveland at Houston, we're going to start with that. The Cleveland Browns, listen, Jerome Ford's done some good things this season. He's been able to get some things going. Has it been a perfect season in the rushing attack for the Cleveland Browns? No. You know, not having Nick Chubb is a sad part of this whole thing. You know, the fact that this guy couldn't be a part of it with everything that he's done for the Cleveland Browns, you know, throughout history, the fact that he's not there has been a tough go at it, but the team, again, has been able to manage. Amari Cooper, who had some time to get himself better. I think Amari Cooper, for you, is worth the play in this game. Amari Cooper is going to be that threat out there. Somebody else is going to have to make a few plays happen here for the Cleveland Browns if they want to defeat the Houston Texans. But talking about fantasy with the Browns first, to me, I think that Jerome Ford gives you some value. I don't think he's a number one running back. I'd got him as a 2 in this situation. I think that he's got value to put into this matchup because of the fact that they're going to need to go to somebody, and he's been the guy that's had to step up. I thought he would get some playing time this year and become the number 2. He's become the number 1 with, them letting go of Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb getting hurt. Then they brought Kareem Hunt back, but Jerome Ford has stepped into that number 1 role. So a shout out to him for that. So I do think he brings some value for you to go after in daily fantasy. I think Amari Cooper does as well. The quarterback situation is, Joe Flacco. Listen, he has been tremendous. I was a Joe Flacco fan when he came into the league. I supported him and backed him and Mark Sanchez when they first came in, and they both made the playoffs in their first season at quarterback. So I'm very happy with that prediction that I put in there, that backing of Joe Flacco and Mark Sanchez. So I continue to back Joe Flacco. I love what he's doing. And keep in mind that he had all that success with the Ravens. The Ravens are the old Browns. So he's had success with the old Browns, and he's had success with the new Browns. And to be completely honest, this team seems to rally better around him than what we were seeing with Deshaun Watson. So I think Flacco has fantasy value, Jerome Ford as well, and Amari Cooper. I'm high on Flacco, though, for sure, just because of the fact that, this man has been tremendous, and whatever they've asked him to do, he's come through. So I give him all the credit in the world, and I give Cleveland the credit for making the phone call there. Really like Joe Flacco. Like I said, Jerome Ford. Amari Cooper, just monitor the fact that he is still on the injury report. He has a heel injury. He didn't practice on Tuesday. So if he's able to go, then, look at putting him out there. Outside of that, Elijah Moore, somebody's going to have to take it. There's so many injuries to their receiving core. Cedric Tillman is on the injury report, Amari Cooper, Marquise Goodwin, Jakeem Grant, and Michael Woods II. So the only ones that are not on the injury report, David Bell, Elijah Moore, James Prochet. So, I would say Elijah Moore has some value in daily fantasy, maybe James Prochet. But ultimately, I put the value on Jerome Ford, Joe Flacco, David Njoku, their tight end, even more so with a bunch of these backs being out. Njoku, I feel like, has been misused, underused is probably a better word. And the fact that they might have to use him because they need help from somebody in that receiving core could bode really well for you if you put him out there for you in daily fantasy. Amari Cooper, monitor it. If he's able to go, then I think he's worth the play for sure. On the other side of it, with the Houston Texans, obviously C.J. Stroud has fantasy value here. This is going to be a good game, with these two quarterbacks because, well, number one, listen, Houston can do some things. And, Cleveland's gotten some respect for their defensive play. So that's going to be another part of this that I'm really excited to see because of the fact that, there's an opportunity to see some positive defensive play here. C.J. Stroud, you got to put him out there. As far as the guys that are behind Stroud, this is, or I should say in the backfield with Stroud at the running back position, this is where it can get a little bit dicey for you. Because the running backs for Houston, Dameon Pierce was supposed to be the guy. Then they brought in Devin Singletary. They've been okay. Neither one of them has been great. But they don't really have to be because of what C.J. Stroud is doing in the air attack. But a balanced game is what's going to win you a Super Bowl more often than not, in my opinion. So, I'd like to see this blossom a little bit more. But to look at their most recent numbers here in their last game when Houston went up against the Colts, in their regular season finale win and you're in, which they did, to look back at that game here that they won 23-19 in that matchup as far as their rushing attack goes for Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce. By the numbers, this is how the guys looked in their most recent game. Singletary, Dameon Pierce wasn't even out there, rushing the ball. Singletary 24 for 63, 2.6 yards a carry and a touchdown. Dameon Pierce was not out there in the game, so my apologies on that. But, they're okay. I would put Jerome Ford above Devin Singletary. I would put C.J. Stroud and Joe Flacco. That's a tough one because Flacco's he gets points in buckets. in these last few games, and we know that C.J. Stroud can do that too. Nico Collins has been fantastic. He had 195 yards against the Colts, 1 touchdown, 21.7 average per catch, 9 catches on 9 targets, caught everything thrown his way for almost 200 yards. You got to play Nico Collins in this one. It's a shame that Tank Dell is on the injury report. John Mechie III, he could get out there for you, as well as Xavier Hutchinson. Robert Woods has a hip injury. Noah Brown has a back injury. God willing, they'll all be okay. But, there's maybe some value there in John Mechie III. Definitely in Nico Collins, C.J. Stroud. A little bit of value in Devin Singletary in this matchup. I got Cleveland defeating the Texans. I have Cleveland defeating the Browns defeating the Texans in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here on our live feed so that you can see it. Browns over Texans there, so that you got that on the live feed. Once again, we are on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So going with the Brownies over the Texans in this one, picking the dog pound. What did Greg say here? Greg had the statement, the passing targets have been funneled to the Cleveland tight end, league-winning tight end. Yeah, I mean, he's David Njoku. I cover Miami, cover the ACC. Seeing him finally get some love. I mean, it feels like, was he ever going to get it? I mean, the Browns allegedly were looking at getting rid of him twice, and they end up keeping him on the team. And, he's bailing them out this season because, besides Amari Cooper, they don't have a lot of household names in that receiving core. So he's been a huge help to this team, and credit to him for all the work that he's done. I mean, if you look at him by the numbers, David Njoku, if you look at him statistically over his time, and he spent all his time with the Browns, he is the second leading receiver on the team right now. He has 882 yards as a tight end behind Amari Cooper's 1,250. He has 6 touchdowns to Amari Cooper's 5. I think there's a lot to be said about his value. And speaking of David Njoku, and if you look at David Njoku right now, once again, 882 yards to 1,250 of Amari Cooper, the leading receiver on the team. Looking at 81 catches for Njoku to Amari Cooper's 72, 6 receiving touchdowns for Njoku to Amari Cooper's 5, and targeted 123 times by Cleveland quarterbacks to the 128 targets that Amari Cooper's gotten. So, David Njoku's he's right there with Amari Cooper as far as targets. He has more catches. He has more touchdowns by 1. So there's something to be stated on that. And he's almost a 1,000-yard guy, and he's playing tight end. It's not every day that you see a tight end hit 1,000 yards. So congratulations to him on that. Statistically, he's been with the Browns since 2017. He's had only one season where he played less than a double-digit number of games. He played 16 games in 2017, 16 in 2018, 4 in 2019, 13 in 2020, 16 in 2021, 14 in 2022, and 16 here in 2023. So taking a look at this right now, by the numbers, he had 386 yards as a rookie, then 639, 41 in his season where he only played 4 games, 213, 475, 628, 882. So this is by far his best season. And again, he's played this season with 4 different quarterbacks. But what does a backup quarterback typically do? Go to their tight end and their running back. And he has come through in a big way for them. Most yards he's ever had in all of his time with the Browns in the NFL. He's been in the NFL for 7 seasons. This is his 7th. Most yards he's ever had, most touchdowns he's ever had in a season is also this season with 6. And looking at targets, this is the most targets he's had by far with 123. The most that he had up to this point was 88 in 2019 season. His receptions, 81, are the most he's ever had. And second most, 58, which was last season in 2022. So looking at all the work that he's done, this is the best season that David Njoku has had in the NFL, probably because they're utilizing him more than they ever had. It's not that he wasn't a weapon. It's just that we didn't see him really get utilized. The fact that he's being utilized as much as he has been, and this is turning into his best season, is telling you something that I think a lot of us believed, which was, why aren't they using David Njoku more? Just like the question in Atlanta with Kyle Pitts, because of the incredible talent that David Njoku is. And look at this. He's become more of the offense, more of a target, more of one of the pieces that they really hone in on for this offense, one of those crucial points that they have now. And he has responded by having a career season this season in year number 7. So shout out to David Njoku, a fantastic tight end in the NFL. Good to finally see him be where he is right now. It makes me very happy because I wanted this for him when he first came in. So shout out to him, and always wanting the best for all the guys out there. So I'm picking Cleveland, gave you the fantasy football advice. Next game up we have on Saturday, Miami at Kansas City. Miami is in a position where they can score a lot of points, but they don't really defend. Kansas City is in a position where this is a season where they're not scoring a lot of points, and they've leaned on their defense. So you got a tale of two different teams coming into this game. Miami can put 50 on you, but Kansas City can win games where they score 20 points. So this is going to be an interesting one. They went up against each other earlier this season, and the Dolphins lost at home to the Chiefs 21-14. Again, this plays into the point that I just made. Kansas City is relying on their defense, scoring around 20 points a game offensively and relying on their defense, where Miami is not really giving you that defense, but they're going out there and they could score a ton of points. So they're going up against Kansas City's defense, and if Kansas City could shut them down like they've shut down other people, Kansas City doesn't have to score a ton of points to win the game, which is exactly what happened earlier this season when they faced off against each other they were in Kansas City, not in Miami. They were in Kansas City. 21-14, Kansas City wins that game. The defense shuts down the offense of Miami, and Kansas City gets by scoring in the 20s, the low 20s, like they have in many games this year. Tua in that game had a touchdown, no interceptions, 21-34, 193 yards. On the other side of it, Patty Mahomes he was 20 of 30, so not too much better. 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. On the ground, 93 yards for Kansas City, 117 for Miami. Raheem Mostert, 12 carries, 85 yards, 7.1 yards a carry. That's nasty. A touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, 16 for 66, 4.1 yards a carry. No rushing touchdowns for the Kansas City Chiefs as a team. Tyreek Hill led the way for Miami. He was targeted 10 times. He caught 8 of those 10 passes, and he had 62 yards. Waddle was targeted 6 times, caught 3 for 42. Jeff Wilson Jr. out of the backfield caught 3 of his 4 targets for 32. Cedric Wilson Jr. caught 1 of the 5 thrown his way for 31 yards, and so on and so forth. On the other side of it, Kansas City had Noah Gray lead the way for 34 yards receiving, was the leader on the team. 3 catches on 3 targets. Sky Moore caught 2 of the 3 for 33. Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield caught all 2 passes thrown his way, 22 yards, one of them being for a touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2 catches on 3 targets for 22 yards. Rashee Rice, 2 catches on the 2 targets, one of them being for a touchdown. Rashee Rice, since then, has definitely stepped it up as a rookie wide receiver coming onto the team from SMU, where I covered him there. So big-time shout-out to him and to the SMU Mustangs. Travis Kelce in this game caught 3 of the 4 thrown his way for a mere 14 yards. So not a big day for him. Look for that to probably change in this matchup as we take a look at it. Miami at Kansas City. Fantasy value for Miami, we're going to start with here. Obviously, there's fantasy value in daily for putting a guy out there named Tua Tagovailoa. So you can put him out there in this matchup. Raheem Mostert, he has a knee injury, and Devon Achane, he has a toe injury, which means that Jeff Wilson Jr. might be the person we see again, like he was utilized in the last game. He might get utilized a lot more in this one. If Mostert is able to go, he's got fantasy value. If not, then give it to Jeff Wilson Jr. although temper your expectations. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are both on the injury report. Tyreek has an ankle injury. Jalen Waddle has been hampered this year. He also has an ankle injury. That doesn't bode well. Cedric Wilson Jr., Braxton Berrios, some other guys, Chase Claypool, that might be guys that are going to be utilized here. Really, the most value you're going to find in daily fantasy is with the guys on the injury report. So I would imagine that Tyreek is going to be able to play, but watch Tyreek, watch Jalen Waddle, see where they end up here because both of them bring a ton of fantasy value. I should say Tyreek brings a ton of fantasy value. There's some fantasy value in Jalen Waddle, who has been all right, but not as consistent as I would like to see for Jalen Waddle. So just watch those, but they both have daily fantasy value. Raheem Mostert, if not, then Jeff Wilson Jr., and of course Tua. On the other side of it, for Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously Patty Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Isaiah Pacheco, he brings something to the table here. But, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was involved more when Pacheco was out, and he had to play. But it hasn't been great. I'm not somebody who leans on the running back room when it comes to fantasy this season for Kansas City. Isaiah Pacheco does bring something, though. Rashee Rice has been good. Justin Watson has definitely stepped it up this season to become something special. So, I think that he's another guy that could be a little sneaky one. He has less fantasy value, though. He would be essentially a wide receiver 3, in my opinion. But I like Rashee Rice as a wide receiver 2. Travis Kelce, you got to put him out there. I'm picking Kansas City to win this game the way that they won it before, which is the fact that Kansas City has been able to get through this season, including getting through the Dolphins earlier this season, by playing better defense than you typically anticipate of them, and getting away with only having to score around 20 points, either 20 or in the low 20s. They've been able to get away with that for the majority of the season. So I look to them to continue that. People haven't been able to stop them. Their offense hasn't been as prolific, but they figured out a way to do it. You look at these games, they beat, if we go from the beginning of the season to now, they lost to the Lions 21-20. So that's a game where they scored around 20 points, right, in a loss. The Jaguars, they beat 17-9. They scored 41 against the Bears, and then they had 23 against the Jets, 27 against the Vikings, 19 against the Broncos. Those were all wins. 31 against the Chargers in a win. Lost to the Broncos 24-9. Then they beat the Dolphins 21-14, lost to the Eagles 21-17, beat the Raiders 31-17, then lost to the Packers 27-19, lost to the Bills 20-17, beat the Patriots 27-17, lost to the Raiders the second time around 20-14, beat the Bengals 25-17, beat the Chargers 13-12. When you look at these games, this offense is not crazy scoring like you expect from Kansas City. It's been more of score, get around 20, and then let's try and hold them on defense. It worked last time with Miami. Miami doesn't have guys at full health here, and Miami has proven that they really struggle when it comes to not allowing points. So I think you're going up against a team that hasn't scored as much as it used to, but you're going up against a defense that hasn't really been known to stop. And so, when you look at Miami this season and how they've gone in their games, Miami gave up 34 points in a win against the Chargers, 17 in a win against the Patriots. They gave up 20 in a win against the Broncos, gave up 48 to the Bills in a loss, gave up 16 to the Giants, 21 to the Panthers. Those are in wins. 31 given up to the Eagles in a loss, 17 given up to the Patriots in a win, 21 given up to the Chiefs in the game we talked about in a loss, 13 given to the Raiders in a win, 13 given to the Jets in a win, 15 given to the Commanders in a win. None of those teams made the playoffs. 28 given up to the Titans in a loss, nothing given up to the Jets in a win. They gave up 20 to the Cowboys in a win, gave up 56 to the Ravens in a loss, gave up 21 to the Bills in a loss. I think in close games where they have to make a defensive stop, I trust the Chiefs more than the Dolphins. And the Chiefs, again, have found a way. I thought, with them, I said in early October, this team is not scoring. They're really like from 20 to the mid-20s. They're living in that world of scoring in the 20s, low to mid-20s. And they've been able to get away with it. And they've done it this season to a record of 11-6. And I think they're going to get by in this one against the Dolphins. So I'm picking the Chiefs to win this game. Next game that we have up here is going to bring us to the trifecta on Sunday, January 14th. So we're going to start with Pittsburgh at Buffalo. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills, two gritty teams that know what it's like to play in the snow around this time of year. So we'll go with Pittsburgh first. The Pittsburgh Steelers, this has been a really unique season. They've struggled to win at home. They've won some games on the road. They did enough to get in the playoffs. They got double-digit wins with 10. They got some help from the Jaguars because they needed to win, and they had to have Buffalo or Jacksonville lose. Jacksonville lost. Pittsburgh won. Pittsburgh gets into the postseason, and now the Steelers have to face off against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, where the fans will be ready with those tables out in the wonderful, vast array of Bills Mafia pre-gaming that they have in the parking lot. So a lot of fun. I hope y'all are going out to Buffalo for this game. A lot of good stuff with that. Definitely a game that you should travel out to, especially if you've never been there before. It's worth going out there. So this is a team where their starting quarterback, remember when they drafted Mason Rudolph and they had Ben Roethlisberger? And it was like, hey, in the future, we're going to go to Mason Rudolph. And then the fans were like, please don't go to Mason Rudolph. And then they drafted Kenny Pickett. And the fans were like, cool, go to Kenny Pickett. And then the fans were like, don't go to Kenny Pickett. Go to Mason Rudolph. And now Mason Rudolph's the guy. And Mason Rudolph might be the guy of the future. And maybe they get rid of Kenny Pickett. This is such a weird scenario with Pittsburgh of drafting both of these guys post Ben Roethlisberger, and now Mason Rudolph is the guy that they're trusting in the postseason and trusting to win the games that they needed to win down the stretch to get into the playoffs and have a fighting shot. He was 18 of 20, 152 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions against a Baltimore Ravens team on the road that played some of their starters but let a lot of guys sit. Deontay Johnson got a touchdown, 89 yards, 4 catches on 5 targets. Freiermuth, 2 catches on both of the targets he had thrown his way, 21 yards. Najee Harris had 112 yards against the Ravens that weren't playing all of their top guys. A touchdown, 26 carries, 4.3 yards a carry. Jaylen Warren, 9 carries for 33, 3.7 yards per carry in this one. The Pittsburgh had fumble galore in this game. Insanity here. They had a ton of fumbles that they recovered from the Ravens, and they also fumbled a bunch. The Ravens had some fumbles here that the team was able to get a hold of, but then Mason Rudolph fumbled 3 times. He lost, and he lost only one of them. Jaylen Warren, he fumbled twice. He lost one of them. Calvin Austin fumbled as well in this game. So just craziness going on here. And then the Baltimore Ravens, they fumbled a bunch of times in this game. So they fumbled a couple times, or I should say a couple times themselves. They had 2 fumbles. They lost both of those. So Mason Rudolph with 3 fumbles, Jaylen Warren with 2 fumbles, and Calvin Austin with a fumble. Typically, you don't win a game when you turn the ball over 3 to 5 times, or 3 or more. I should say 3 or more times, but definitely if you're in that 4, 5, 6 range, they fumbled the ball away 6 times and still won this game. Insanity. But they were also going up against some backups here. So on Pittsburgh's side of things, the value that I would give to Pittsburgh in this game, fantasy-wise, I would give some to Najee Harris. I would give some to Deontay Johnson. I would also look at George Pickens. The problem with Pickens is every quarterback, again, has their guy. Mason Rudolph spent more time with Deontay Johnson than he spent with George Pickens, who's been Kenny Pickett's guy. So Deontay Johnson, I would think, is going to get more opportunities here because Mason Rudolph is the quarterback, not Kenny Pickett. So look for Pickens to be a 2 option, Deontay to be a 1 option. Pat Freiermuth, I do like him in this game. I'd say he's a tight end too, but I do like Muth. And then he is my favorite Steeler currently. And I do like TJ Watt a lot, and I hope TJ Watt gets better ASAP so that we can see him out there, because not having TJ Watt out there, I mean, let's face it, he's the MVP of the Steelers for the last, 3 seasons at least. So shout out to TJ Watt and God bless, and hopefully he will get better very, very soon. And a prayer for everybody on and off the field to get healthy and get well in any way that you're hurting right now. On the other side, Josh Allen worth the play. Cookie worth the play. Leonard Fournette is on the Buffalo Bills now. Love how these teams sneak these guys in for a playoff push, right? It's what some of us do in fantasy football, right? Where we make trades with people. They know they're not going to be in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. We make some trades to help our team out, give us some added inventory and a little insurance policy going into the postseason. So, James Cook, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, like him in this one. Dawson Knox got some value here. Questionable with a PCL injury is Gabe Davis. So look for more for Kincaid. Maybe some more love for Knox. Love for Diggs. And then Cook, I like him in this. Josh Allen, little sneaky play. Leonard Fournette, maybe worth a couple bucks there on your side in this matchup. I'm taking Buffalo. I'm going with the Bills in this one. I don't see the now I think that because the Bills have been an enigma and the Bills have, played their way out of some games where you're sitting here thinking that they would be in a better position. Now, granted, they're the number 2 team in the AFC. So they started the season off with so much hype like they've done the last 3 years. And then people were like, what the heck are the Bills doing? And then the Bills, struggled. And then it's like, are they going to make the playoffs? And then they go into the last week in week 18, where if they lose, they weren't in the playoffs. They had to win to get in the playoffs or get a bunch of help. And, have Jacksonville lose, which, that essentially put Buffalo in the playoffs. But Buffalo was in a place going into week 18 where they weren't in the postseason. And in order to get into the postseason, they had to have some help from somebody else, which they got from Jacksonville, or they had to win. They did both, and they went from out of the playoffs to into the playoffs to not a wild card team to winning the division over the Dolphins. You go from out of the playoffs to winning your division and being the 2 seed under only the Baltimore Ravens. Yet I still get nervous with Buffalo in the playoffs because of how they played recently. Hopefully they can get this one. I have them winning over the Steelers in this matchup. Green Bay at Dallas. Let's go to that one next here. The Green Bay Pack is going up against the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go to Green Bay first, as we always handle the road team. And when it comes to my fantasy projections here for you, Jordan Love, listen, this guy's done some good things. He's playing Dallas's defense, though. I'd probably stay away from him here. But Jordan Love in his first season as a true starter on the team, he brings them to the playoffs with everybody else. I don't want to just give credit to him, give credit to all the Packers, but a big-time shout-out to the people that thought that Jordan Love was not going to be able to get this team in the postseason. I'm one of those people that thought it was going to take some time, so I'm pleasantly surprised that they're in the postseason in their first season with Jordan Love as their starter. So shout out to Jordan for the work that he's done. Big time credit to him for helping this team, aiding this team into the playoffs, dealing with all the injuries that they've had to their running back room and to their wide receiver core. The fact that he could still move this ball down the field, credit to them. Green Bay won a bunch of games that, when you looked at the schedule going into the season, you didn't really anticipate they were going to win. So shout out to their offense, defense, and special teams for all having moments of success throughout the season. They're 9-8, but you look at some of these games and you say to yourself, like, okay, they beat the Saints 18-17. That's a game that helped to keep the Saints out of the postseason. You look at their game against the Rams, who are a playoff team. They beat them 20-3. You look at their game at the Lions. They won 29-22. Speaking of Green Bay, and that was huge because they lost their first one at home 34-20, and then they beat one on the road in Motor City. They beat the Chiefs this season 27-19. So a bunch of their big wins, 3 of the 4 that I mentioned, were at home. Then you look at beating the Bears at the end of the season, taking care of the Vikings. The Vikings were still alive. The Bears were alive before the last game of the season, so they were already out at that point. But the Bears had some life to them, and the Vikings had some life to them. So to see how they finished off, to see what they did in their division, they beat all of the teams in their division. They beat the Bears twice. They beat the Lions 1 out of 2 times, and they beat the Vikings 1 out of 2. So, taking care of that was huge. And looking at how they won some of these games, 17-9, 20-3, 18-17, like I mentioned, gutting some of these out, grinding them out. Close games here. When you look at games that the Green Bay Packers won by, a field goal or a touchdown, one possession, essentially, looking at this by one score or less than that. I mean, 18-17, getting that victory, winning that one by a point, beating the Chargers by 3 points, beating the Lions by 7 points, beating the Chiefs by 8 points, so a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, beating the Panthers by 3 points, and then beating the Bears by 8. So winning some of these close games, got them into the postseason, and I see some value. Aaron Jones is back. A.J. Dillon is now hurt. It's annoying that they both can't stay healthy. At one point, they were both hurt, Patrick Taylor and the crew out there, Emmanuel Wilson. Now we're looking at a team where Bo Melton has stepped it up. Jaden Reed has stepped it up as well. Jaden Reed being a rookie on this team, and Bo Melton having played a season here. So two of your young receivers showing up for the absence of Christian Watson. He's got a hamstring injury. God willing, he'll be okay. Romeo Doubs, he has a chest injury. He hasn't really shown up a lot this season. Dontavian Wicks, another rookie, he's done a good job. So the young receivers that they brought in here to play with Jordan Love have done some good things. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, and Bo Melton. So there is some value. I'd put it the most on Reed, but Wicks and Melton probably, I would go Reed, Melton, Wicks as far as if you're going to play anybody in daily fantasy. Monitor Watson and Doubs, but I think Jaden Reed is still my favorite with both of those guys being injured, unless there's a really speedy recovery for Christian Watson. On the other side, or I should say Luke Musgrave at the tight end position, I do have some love for him here at tight end. Luke Musgrave, looking at him through these last few games, I'm looking at him through this season. Him and Tucker Kraft, right? They both done some good things on the team. I want to take a look at them by the numbers, though. So most recently here in this last game that they had against Chicago that they won 17-9, the receiving core for them, Luke Musgrave, 1 catch on 1 thrown his way, 11 yards. Tucker Kraft caught all 3 for 31. We've seen them both, and I would say that Tucker Kraft's going to get a little bit of a nod from me here. Kraft is he's been the primary tight end target here. Musgrave had some moments, but I do like Tucker Kraft, and I do think he brings some fantasy value to you. On the other side of it, for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, play him. Tony Pollard, play him. CeeDee Lamb, play him. Jake Ferguson's shown up and done some good things too, so I like him as well. When we look at the most recent game for the Cowboys knew that they had to win the division and to secure themselves being at home for every game unless they play San Francisco, which is a really good way to look at things. They faced off, beat the Commanders in a close, in 38-10 in a blowout, I should say, pardon me. In this matchup, Jake Ferguson had 6 catches, all thrown his way, 6 for 6, 69 yards, second leading receiving yard getter behind CeeDee Lamb, who caught all 13 thrown his way for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rico Dowdell, you look at him in the rushing attack, he gets used, and he gets used in a passing attack. He could be a sneaky guy to play in a daily fantasy thing. If you could flex somebody out in fantasy, I'd look to put him out there as well. And Brandon Cooks caught 6 of the 8 thrown his way, and one of them being a touchdown, so he's a sneaky play. But I would say definitely Dak, definitely Tony, CD. I like Jake Ferguson. And then I got some love for Rico and for Brandon Cooks. So that's how I would look at that. We're going to handle our so I got the Cowboys over the Packers in this one as well, to make a note on that. Picking the Cowboys in this matchup over the Packers. We have 2 more games to go. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break inside of Fantasy Football in Focus on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And this is the NFL Playoffs 2023-24 Wild Card Edition, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student-athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Under promise, over deliver, as we are here with you in our fantasy football in focus past 11 o'clock, and we always appreciate you being here with us all throughout the week and all throughout the year as we start here in 2024. So we got a couple games left to go. This is our Fantasy Football in Focus NFL Playoff edition for the 2023-24 season, talking about the wild card round, which is happening this Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, is our coverage of the fantasy football advice and these games as well. So happy to be here with you, and we implore you to go out to the Wildcat and have some fun on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Awesome experience, awesome food, awesome venue, not a bad seat in the house. The games are there for you, the acoustics in it, the giant screen that they have, screens everywhere, leather couches, high tops, regular tables, sitting at the bar. Just a fantastic time had by all, and we definitely, I would tell you to go out to the Wildcat. I go out there all the time. 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Head out to the Wildcat today and enjoy it. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, or you could say DT sent me over to you guys. So make sure you head out there. Takeout and Delivery, 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat Sports Pub. With that being said, we got 2 more games to go. The final game on Sunday's triple header is going to be this Sunday, January 14th. The game is the Rams at the Lions, the Stafford Bowl, and Matty Stafford's new team, Matty Stafford's old team, heading back to the place where he spent so many years as the hometown guy there. I should not his hometown, but spent so many years as, that hero of Detroit is what I was getting at. So Matty Stafford coming back to Detroit for this matchup against the Lions, his old team, and the Rams being his new team, winning a Super Bowl with the Rams. And so taking a look at this one as they face off against each other. We'll go to the Rams first. Matt Stafford, of course, is worth the play in this game, in my belief. I like it. I know Detroit's defense going to try and get him, do some things. But the Rams here, they fought to get in. They're under the radar. I don't think a lot of people are giving them respect. I don't think a lot of people are giving them a chance. So definitely, I think this might be the marquee game of the week. I think all the games are going to be good. I honestly do. I mean, I think Cleveland, I give Cleveland the upside, even though they're the 5th seed and Houston's the 4th seed, but I also think that Houston's dangerous. Miami is dangerous, but Kansas City, like I said, they've been able to lean more on their defense than their offense this season. They don't have to score a ton of points, and they've found ways to win, including against Miami the first time around this season. So I look to that. Pitt and Buffalo, that could be a dogfight. That could be a game that's just in the trenches, cold as all get out, and it could be a really close game. It could be 13-10, 17-13, or Buffalo can blow it out. So I think you can't count out Pittsburgh, but I give Buffalo the edge. And then Green Bay and Dallas, who knows what Green Bay is going to do? I want to say Dallas is going to be too much. Dallas has been really good at home, which is why I don't understand. I understand Philadelphia had some injuries, but, at the same time, it's like, could those guys have gone? Did you sit those guys? We know Jalen Hurts has played hurt before. So, knowing that the 2 seed is on the line, Philly just kind of seemed like it's almost like they played like they knew they had the 2 seed when they didn't have the 2 seed. So, Dallas being at home and Dallas being so good at home is really not something that I would have let Dallas have if you can prevent it. But they got it. They won it fair and square, and I got them getting the edge over the Packers. But in this Rams game up against the Lions are that team that I picked to win their division. The Rams flew under the radar. Matt Stafford worth the play. Kyron Williams worth the play. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, one of my favorite names in the world, worth the play as well. On the other side of it, Jared Goff. I mean, I think you got to play both of these quarterbacks. I think there's fantasy value in daily for both of these guys. David Montgomery's done a pretty good job. Jahmyr Gibbs has done a pretty good job. The fact that they're working together, best 1-2 punch Detroit's had in a minute. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's worth the play as well. Jameson Williams has an ankle injury, so he's questionable. So Sam Laporta, here's my issue here. He's questionable with a knee injury. I think Sam Laporta has been a great rookie tight end in the league. I'm a fan of his. I unveiled earlier this week that I got a card from GG Cards and Breaks of Sam Laporta. It's rookie sweaters, and it's a patch card, but instead of being a patch of his jersey, it's a patch of NFL players' sweater, like winter sweaters, like the ugly sweaters that you can wear. So it's actually a patch of Detroit Lions ugly sweater that is in the Sam Laporta card, which I thought was really, really cool. And I got it because I respect Laporta. I actually think I have it down here in the studio still. So let's see here. Let's see if I kept it in my studio in my travels. I think I did. Yeah, here it is. So that's what the card looks like. GG Cards and Breaks. Shout them out. So instead of having a patch of his jersey, that's a patch of his ugly sweater for the Detroit Lions. How cool is that? So definitely go and get yourself these. These are from Panini, Donruss, and you can go and grab yourself some. Hopefully they have some Donruss for you. They're always coming up with new product at GG Cards and Breaks on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. You can also find them at ggcardsandbreaks.com. That's GG Cards and Breaks, and spelled out, ggcardsandbreaks.com. So make sure you head over there. And GG Cards and Breaks and I are going to be heading over to the Wildcat on January 25th on Thursday for trade night to buy, sell, and trade cards amongst the wonderful sports card hobby community. So any age, bring your cards out, come out, let's have a good time. So I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. If Laporta can play, I would like to put him out there. But right now I'm going to put it for Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Jared Goff. I give a little more of a nod to Matt Stafford than Jared Goff, but I think there's fantasy value, a lot of fantasy value in this game on both sides. I'm picking the Lions over the Rams, but this game is huge. I mean, think about it. He leaves the Lions and he wins the Super Bowl with the Rams. So he got something that he wasn't going to get the way that that Lions team was made up at the time. So to leave and to get that is huge. Now, if the Lions can beat the Rams, then that's huge, right? Because then they prove, okay, you know, we don't need Matt Stafford to have a shot at the Super Bowl ourselves. So if they win this one, it's kind of like it wins for all sides. So we'll see what happens, but a lot of respect to both teams. A lot of respect to these two quarterbacks that were swapped, Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, for the work that they've done to get their teams in the postseason and to have some pretty awesome seasons the last couple seasons. Philadelphia at Tampa Bay is going to be Monday Night Football, January 15th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, ABC, and ESPN Plus. You can watch this game on any one of those outlets. Philadelphia coming into the postseason, not looking great. Their season it started off fantastic. They were the only team that was undefeated for a while, and then I think they were like 9-1, and I said they were the best team in football because at the time they were the best team in football, and they did not finish the season as the best team in football. I don't know if they finished the season as one of the top 5 best teams in football. So, I mean, you can argue, look at how hot Cleveland was, look at how Buffalo finished, the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, you got to give them credit where credit is due. And then you look to the Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions, the San Francisco 49ers. So, I mean, you could put Philly behind all of those teams. They started off the season with, they were actually more than that. They were 10-1. All the way through to when they lost to the 49ers 42-19. So they start off the season 10-1, and they end the season, after starting off the season 10-1, they had 1 win after that. So you start off the season 10-1. Since then, they've gone 1-5. Not good. Lost to the Niners, lost at the Cowboys, lost at the Seahawks, defeated the Giants, lost to the Cardinals, lost at the Giants. So they lost to the Giants who had Tommy DeVito. They lost to the Giants who had Tyrod Taylor. So they didn't just lose to the Giants who didn't have a great season. I mean, they had a better season than I think people give them credit for. 6-11 wasn't, I think people thought they did a lot worse than that. So, the Giants didn't have a horrible, horrible season. But to lose to the Giants twice, not good for Philadelphia, especially not this season with so much high hopes that the Philadelphia Eagles had going into this one. So, and they're coming off of, they played in the Super Bowl, right? They had a shot to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and the game was close. So they're not coming into this one the way that you would hope they would come into the postseason, being the way that people anticipated that they would be. Jalen Hurts was in this game, 7 for 16, threw an interception, no touchdowns. Gainwell led the way, 62 yards. Mariota, the backup quarterback, had 46 yards on the ground rushing. He was 13-20, 148, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Quez Watkins led the way for receivers, 8 catches, 11 targets, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Then you had behind him Britton Covey. So, you're playing all these backups. Olamide Zaccheaus, who I covered at Virginia, and then he went to the NFL, went to the Falcons, and now he's an Eagle. So he's been in the nest wherever he's been. He got involved, 2 catches, 4 targets, 20 yards. Grant Calcaterra, he got involved, 2 catches on 2 targets. He's a he's a second-year player out of SMU, a tight end on SMU, team that I've covered for a decade, like I was talking about. And then you look at Julio Jones caught a couple in this game. A.J. Brown caught the only one thrown his way. Goddard caught 1 of 3 thrown his way. So this was more of the backups for Philadelphia backing into the playoffs. Not looking great. And, thanks for joining, Tristan. I appreciate it very much so. So to go to Philadelphia first, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he's questionable with a finger injury. DeAndre Swift is questionable with an illness. A.J. Brown is questionable with a knee injury. Devontae Smith is questionable with an ankle injury. So Goddard is your only starter that in fantasy is not on the injury report, thank goodness. So I would say if they're able to go, then Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. If not, there's some value in Gainwell and Julio Jones. There's still some value in Gainwell. I feel better about Brown going than Swift going, so I have some more value in Gainwell either way, if Swift goes or if he doesn't. And, I think on the other, listen, going into this game with injuries, on top of the fact that you haven't played that well when your guys are out there, I'm picking Tampa. I think Tampa, they're at home. They're playing a Philadelphia Eagles team that's 1-5 since starting off the season, 10-1. They are injured. Their injuries are to major pieces of their offense. Tampa Bay's going in clean when you look at their injury report, God bless. So I think Baker has some value. Rashad White, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they all have value on this team, in my opinion, in fantasy. Shout out to Sean Tucker, undrafted free agent out of Syracuse, who holds the record for the most rushing yards in a single season in Syracuse history, which is above Jim Brown, above Ernie Davis, above Floyd Little, above Larry Zonka, and so on and so forth. So definitely got to give credit where credit is due that he made the team and he's still on the team. So shout out to Sean Tucker for that. He's the third back on the team for Tampa behind Chase Edmonds and Rashad White being the starter. I'm picking the Bucs over the Eagles. I think the Bucs they got a ton of weapons. Baker played better than I had anticipated, and it's just been a really good season for the Bucs. So I'm going with the Bucs over the Eagles. A once promising season for the Eagles, not looking that great, especially having to play on the road, hampered by injury against a Tampa team that is all too ready to play spoiler, even though they're technically the higher seed. So with all of that being said, I want to thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call today and every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We gave you some bonus time, as we always tend to do. YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com as well. And, of course, once we go live, we jump into the archives, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Podvine, Player FM, Podchaser.com, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these outlets, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. We're proud to have our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, including Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, which brings you all of our fantasy football coverage from week to week. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, GG Cards and Breaks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month with the Dolphins. AD and DT featuring Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, a.k.a. DT, coming to you every first and third Wednesday of each month with our conversations on the grand scope and a behind-the-scenes look at what you would never know if not for this partnership with Lemoyne, including the entire series that we did on the road to D1, working closely with Bob Beretta, giving us all of the insider information about the process of moving from Division 2 to Division 1, found only on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive content with the athletics director as well as president Dr. Linda Lemura and the coaches. The Dolphin Dive, speaking of the coaches, dives into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You had a double dose of the Dolphin Dive today with Lemoyne men's basketball head coach Nate Champion and Lemoyne men's and women's swimming and diving head coach Adam Zakowski. Dolphin Dive is the second and fourth Wednesday of each month that you'll find them. You can get all of our content with the Dolphins by going to our YouTube channel, clicking subscribe on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, hit the notification bell, check out our Lemoyne playlist on YouTube, and you can also go to wakeupcalldt.com to the exclusive partners tab and click on Lemoyne from there. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com, and as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats for men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, baseball, as well as esports and more happening for you exclusively right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you the Bobcat buzz every single month. Student athletes, coaches, and administration, bringing you selection show specials, as well as in the middle of the night, jumping on the bus to go to a national tournament special, and everything that we get to do on site, on location with the Bobcats. We've played board games with the coaches and had some fun with Jenga and gestures. We do things very different, very unique. We had Mary Hawkins join us, who is there on campus overseeing everything and working with the students and student athletes. And we had the opportunity for Mary to get to know the coaches to get to know Mary, while you get to know them all in an awesome panel discussion as we made history at Bryan and Stratton, which is right there on James Street in Syracuse. The men's basketball team heads into the second half of their season as the number one ranked team in the country. The women's team heads into their second half of the basketball season as the second ranked team in the nation. You can get all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, clicking subscribe, hitting the notification bell, and finding our BSC Syracuse playlist. For more content, or for another way to reach them, you can go to wakeupcalldt.com under the exclusive partners tab and click on BSC Syracuse. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for watching and listening today and always. I can't believe we're already 10 days into 2024. We did 255 broadcasts of Wake Up Call in the morning through the wonderful opportunities that we've had. We did 255 broadcasts of Wake Up Call in the morning in 2023, not including all of the on-site shows or the extra hours we gave you outside of 9 to 11. So it stands to reason that we're closer to 300 broadcasts in 2023, and we're already off to a fantastic start in 2024. Thanks to all of your support, to our wonderful companies we work with, the wonderful schools that allow me to speak with them, the professional teams, the high schools, the colleges, the universities, the alum, the coaches, the staff members, administration, student athletes, and professional athletes. I cannot thank all of my guests enough. I can't thank my listeners, viewers, and readers enough. And I can't thank the wonderful business partners that we have enough. And above all things, God gets all my thanks. I hope you have a great day. Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Adam. Go see Adam's teams in their swim meet on senior day this Friday at Lemoyne at 3 p.m. So this Friday, January 12th at 3 p.m., go to the pool at Lemoyne and support Lemoyne Dolphins men's and women's swimming and diving. And then on Saturday at 2 o'clock, support the men's basketball team with Nate Champion and the crew as they play their first ever NEC game at home. First conference game in the new conference they're in at home ever in their history. Be a part of history on senior day on Friday, and be a part of history on Saturday with the first NEC men's basketball game on campus at Lemoyne College. We'll see you there for both. I appreciate you tremendously. Thank you to the Wildcat for their amazing food, all of their fantastic memories, and 8 years of proudly working together. And, of course, for all of the fantasy football content that they proudly present to you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I hope you have a great day. Find us on social media. We'll see you at the Dome tonight at 9 o'clock. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. In the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. Go to our shop, and you can, I'm going to be adding all of that to our social media again, but on Instagram, it's pinned to our feed there that you can shop right now and get shirts, sweatshirts, a bunch of different things that say, God bless, no stress, do your best. You can get the Wake Up Call logo, Super Powered Pop, Do Diz with Dan, Comic Book Trails. You can get all of those logos as well as you can find our hats, polos, golf towels, duffel bags. There's so much available for you to shop now with our merchandise for Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. So show your love that way. Appreciate how you always show your love